On the third day of the humanitarian truce, Israel and Hamas continue with the exchange of hostages. The Zionist regime freed 39 Palestinian foreign nationals to the Red Crescent. Hundreds of people greeted the international committee of the Red Crescent bus carrying the Palestinians as it arrived in Al-Bihre in the occupied West Bank. Crowds reportedly chanted "God is great" as the bus arrived, and several young men stood on the roof of the vehicle while many in the crowd held Hamas flags and chanted pro-Hamas slogans. The arrival of the Palestinian prisoners, 6 women and 33 men, has brought tears and joy as they were received by their families in the occupied East Jerusalem and West Bank. Israel's military spokesperson Daniel Hagari says in a press conference that the army's mission has not been accomplished yet as it works to recover all the captives held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Prisoners' rights groups have reported that around 3,200 Palestinians have been detained by Israeli occupation forces since the beginning of the conflict in Gaza on October 7th. Let's get closer to the figures provided by the group's statement. The Palestinian Prisoners Society says the highest number of detainees held from Hebron in the occupied West Bank. As you can see, the numbers of women, children, and journalists arrested so far are staggering. 120 women arrested since the beginning of the Gaza assault, 145 children arrested until the end of October. The group did not provide figures for November. 41 journalists were arrested, 29 remain in detention. On the other hand, 1,624 administrative detention orders were either issued or renewed, and 6 prisoners died in custody or detention. The recent truce between Israel and Hamas has brought a glimmer of hope to the dire humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. However, Israel's non-compliance with certain aspects of the truce, such as the non-aggression towards residents of the Gaza Strip, has complicated the hostage exchange process. Earlier today, our correspondent Huda Hegazi commented on the impacts of Israel's constant breaches of the agreement.
We are in the third day of this truce between Hamas and Israel, which is supposed to last 4 consecutive days. But Israel proceeded to breach one of the main conditions of this truce, which states that no drones or helicopters can be introduced into the sky of the Gaza Strip. Especially in the southern area. But since the beginning of the truce, Israel tried to introduce 7 camouflage drones into the sky of the Rafah governorate. And Hamas military group found these drones, and because of this, Hamas decided to postpone the release of the hostages, which was scheduled for 4 p.m. local time in the Gaza Strip. And it was postponed for 2 hours until 6 p.m. as an attempt to punish Israel for the breach of the truce. On the second day, Israel also proceeded to breach the truce by preventing the entry of the number of humanitarian aid trucks that had been agreed. It had been established that 150 trucks of humanitarian aid would enter daily to be distributed between the north and the south of the Gaza Strip. However, only 70 trucks of humanitarian aid were able to enter the region. And just today, these trucks have reached the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Faced with this second breach of the truce by Israel, Hamas did not carry out the release of the hostages until approximately midnight last night, when the Qatari and Egyptian intermediaries, after making several calls with both parties, declared that Israel would comply with the terms and conditions of the truce. However, on this third day of the truce, Israel also proceeded to violate one of the most important clauses of the truce, which prevented Israeli soldiers from proceeding to carry out any military act in the Gaza Strip. But early today, Israeli soldiers proceeded to fire live bullets at 2 farmers in the center of the Gaza Strip, killing one of them while the other is in serious conditions, and it was transferred to the Martyrs of Al-Aqsa hospital. In addition, yesterday at approximately 2 p.m., Israeli warplanes proceeded to bomb a young man who was also in the center of the Gaza Strip with an F-16 missile. This was another breach of the terms of the truce, so it's uncertain how the hostage exchange will proceed today. This morning, both Hamas and Israel proceeded to publish the list of the people who would be released. Israel released 39 Palestinian prisoners, which 33 of them are women and the rest are children, while Hamas will release 13 Israeli hostages.
Procedieron a anunciar las listas de los rehenes que se iban a liberar en la jornada de hoy, que era 39 encarcelados palestinos, 33 mujeres y los demás niños.
But due to the circumstances, it is not known how the hostage exchange will proceed or if it's going to be carried out, because Israel has failed for 3 days to comply with the terms of the Humanitarian Truce.
Ya es el tercer día que ha incumplido las normas de esta tregua humanitaria.
The United Nations Agency for Displaced Persons in Palestine, UNRWA, warned that 80% of the population of Gaza has been displaced since the start of hostilities on October 7th. According to the United Nations office, more than 1.7 million people have been displaced inside Gaza due to the Israeli siege. According to the agency, more than 1 million of these internally displaced persons are sheltered in 156 UN facilities throughout Gaza. UN experts warn that these people are suffering from overcrowded conditions and lack of water, which have worsened respiratory, skin, and stomach diseases. During the truce between Israel and Hamas, the United Nations Refugee Organization Agency for Palestine Refugees conducts recreational activities for children. According to representatives of the United Nations organization, this Sunday, recreational activities were carried out in the UN schools in the cities of Khan Yunis and Rafah. This due to the forced displacement of Palestinian citizens, mainly children, to the center, south, and east of the Gaza Strip. The initiative seeks to alleviate the affective and psychological consequence of the attacks perpetrated by Israel against populated areas, forced displacement, and overcrowded conditions in the shelters in Gaza.
We are initiating a series of recreational activities for the children in the schools located in Khan Yunis and Rafah. These are children who have been displaced from the north to the south and from the east of Khan Yunis to the center of the Khan Yunis district. Where there are several shelters, we aim at alleviating the psychological consequences of the conflict on these children, many of whom come from homes that have been destroyed and attacked, and some of them were wounded during the Israeli aggression. This is already the third day of the truce, and God willing, it may be extended, so that we may be able to relieve the emotional suffering of these children.
In Morocco, citizens marched this Sunday through the streets of the city of Casablanca in support of the Palestinian people. Demonstrators described the truce between the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas, and Israel as insufficient, advocating a definitive ceasefire to give peace a chance. They also called for the creation of a sovereign Palestinian state with its capital in Jerusalem and demanded the complete release of all Palestinian prisoners. Marchers also demand the breaking of relations between Israel and Morocco established at the end of 2020 within the framework of a process between Israel and several Arab countries promoted by the United States. Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. According to the Global Peace Index, Haiti features among the 34 most dangerous countries in the world. In 2023, Haiti has recorded the second largest deterioration of peacefulness, dropping 17th places, ranking 129th out of 163 countries. This according to the 17th annual report published by the Institute for Economics and Peace, headquartered in Sydney. This is the lowest ranking Haiti has had since its inception in 2008. Internal security in Haiti significantly worsened over the past year with increased violent crimes, political instability, and political terror. Since the assassination of the previous president, Jovenel Moïse, Haiti entered a crisis of insecurity with criminal gangs controlling over half the country, forcing thousands from their homes. In Panama, over 12,000 cases of dengue fever have been confirmed so far this year. Panama's health ministry, through its epidemiology department, reported that to this date, 12,233 cases of dengue fever have been confirmed in the country. They also reported 2 new deaths for a total of 10 people dead due to the disease. The health ministry declared that the regions with more confirmed cases of dengue fever are Bocas del Toro, Colón, Panama Metro and West, and Chiriquí. In view of this situation, the health ministry launched a campaign to counter the Aedes aegypti mosquito vector of the disease. In Bolivia, according to Civil Defense Deputy Minister Juan Carlos Calvi-Montes, all the latest wildfires have finally been extinguished. In this way, the streak of fires has ended, but firefighter teams remain on alert. International support forces continue to arrive in the country, the latest being 40 French firefighters who arrived on Saturday, who will work in cooling the affected areas to prevent any fire from reactivating itself. After announcing that there are no more ongoing wildfires in the country, the Civil Defense Deputy Minister said that now they are getting ready to counter the effects of heavy rains that will hit the country in the coming days.
First, to say that since yesterday afternoon there is not a single ongoing fire in the entire territory of Bolivia. We have 0 fires. Second, to share with you that from now on our joint command is on full geared because due to an official weather forecast of heavy rains, an orange alert has been issued for 5 departments.
In Uruguay, the northwest region, over 3,000 people have been displaced from their homes due to the flooding caused by the overflow of the Uruguay River. The National Emergency System released this figure over the weekend. According to the National Water Department of the Ministry of Environment, the river flooding will intensify. The departments most affected are Artigas, Paysandú, and Santo, located in the north and northwest of the country. The National Emergency System warned that the present weather situation is expected to continue over the next few days. Somalia updated the death toll caused by heavy rains in this region of East Africa to 96. Meanwhile, the number of displaced affected by floods has already exceeded 700,000. Mahamoud Moalim, head of Somalia's Disaster Management Agency, said the rains have triggered a series of floods across the country, a fact that further aggravates the humanitarian crisis hitting several countries in the Horn of Africa. Kenya, the neighboring country, is also being severely affected, with at least 76 deaths recorded, according to the Red Crescent. Some 800 environmentalists from the Let's Third Generation group blocked traffic on the capital's 17th of June Street between the Victory Column and the Brandenburg Gate on Saturday. The environmentalists were accompanied by members of other groups that fight against environmental damage to block the passage of vehicles on the aforementioned Central Road. On this occasion, the participants in the demonstration avoided using powerful glue that they smear on their hands to attach themselves to the streets, which on previous occasions forced the German authorities to use solvents and even cut or tear off fragments of asphalt. Since last year, this group has been blocking the main streets of this city and other cities in the country to demand immediate measures to prevent the increase of the average temperature in the world. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant new coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Greece, a cargo ship flying the flag of Comoros was shipwrecked on Sunday with 14 people on board southwest of the island of Lesbos. According to the Greek Coast Guard, the ship wrecked about 4.5 miles off the island of Lesbos. At the moment, only 1 passenger could be rescued in time by Navy helicopters, while the remaining 13 are still missing. The cargo ship was carrying salt and sailed from Egypt to Istanbul. The authorities reported that 5 Coast Guard vessels and 2 helicopters are deployed in search of the missing. Spanish police seized 600 kilos of cocaine hidden in a container in Valencia and have made 8 arrests in connection with the haul. A spokesperson for the Civil Guard said the operation was part of the international project Global Drug International Network, led by the local force and funded by the European Commission. The aim of the project is to dismantle global criminal organizations through international cooperation and the exchange of information between participating countries. Police said investigators were tipped off by Central American sources about a large quantity of drugs hidden inside a container being shipped to Valencia. Moreover, more than 4,000 euros in cash and a firearm were reportedly seized from the detainees.
The Civil Guard in the Operation Tedio has seized 600 kilos of cocaine found in a container in the town of Quart de Poblet in Valencia. They have also arrested 8 people belonging to a criminal organization involved in international drug trafficking. The raid is part of the international project Global Drug International Network, led by the Civil Guard and funded by the European Commission.
Chad began campaigning Saturday for a vote on a new constitution in a perceived test of legitimacy for the ruling junta and the Idno dynasty's 3-year reign. More than 8.3 million people in the vast but poor Sahel country are called on the vote in a referendum slated for December 17th, in a key step towards the elections and establishing civilian rule. Transitional President General Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, whose junta has governed since 2021, had promised to hand power to civilians and hold elections this year before postponing them to 2024.
This dialogue, whose achievements and recommendations have enabled us to draw up this draft constitution, will be submitted to the Chadian people for their approval on 17 December. For 21 days, starting today, our coalition is in battle order to convince all Chadian citizens of the importance of this draft constitution, which enshrines the unitary state.
On Saturday, Congolese Nobel Peace Prize laureate Dr. Denis Mukwege kicked off his presidential campaign for next December 20th elections. He has promised to tackle corruption and the violent conflict ravaging communities east of the country. At a rally in Bukavu city in the eastern South Kivu province, the 68-year-old renowned physician also vowed to end famine in Congo, which is a richly endowed but impoverished country battling high rates of poverty and starvation. In 2018, Mukwege was named joint winner of the Nobel Peace Prize for his work supporting victims of sexual abuse during military conflicts in Congo through the Panzi hospital he founded. He is known for his years-long activism, surviving an assassination attempt in 2012 and facing death threats. More than 2,000 people took part in a gay pride event in New Delhi on Sunday, waving rainbow flags and multicolored balloons as they celebrated sexual diversity in India. The annual event comes after India's Supreme Court refused to legalize same-sex marriages in an October ruling that disappointed campaigners for LGBTQ+ rights in the world's most populous country. Dancing to drums and music, the participants walked for more than 2 hours to the Jantar Mantar area near India's parliament, holding banners reading Equality for All and Queer and Proud. In 2018, the nation's Supreme Court struck down a colonial-era law that had made gay sex punishable by up to 10 years in prison and expanded constitutional rights for the gay community. However, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Hindu nationalist government resisted the legal recognition of same-sex marriages and rejected several petitions in favor.
It's not about marriage, it's about equality. Everybody should have the same rights because that's what our constitution says.
It's on its way to being liberal, but there's so much, like it's not even 1% of how much equality we need. Like 99% of society still discriminates against us in subtle ways, in major ways, in many different ways. And it's ask any queer person and their experiences might be different, but all of them will have experienced some kind of discrimination, either big or small.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscasts and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.